153 years ago, we will see the conclusion of the United States of America's internal conflict on whether or not to keep slavery. The ultimate victor of the argument, however, was the North, establishing that slavery is absolutely and undeniably wrong, and that the existence of it violates the moral principles set within this country. All slaves were declared free, but to stop people from treating other races unfairly for things like position, jobs, and education. 3 years later, we received the 14th Amendment alongside the Equal Protection Clause. These state that anyone born in America, plus the slaves and their offspring, are all citizens of America, and that all citizens cannot be denied any of their rights or securities granted. This clause in the 14th Amendment will give the judicial branch a new role to fill, the role of being the equalizer for races. They will eventually add the protected class into the mix to allow for equal consideration of minorities. Using these new laws, the judicial branch now oversees how industries and schools accept, deny, and treat people, striking down certain acts while allowing others. This will be seen in the very famous case of Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, which declared that segregation of students into different schools, even if it followed the separate but equal doctrine put into place years ago, still violated the 14th Amendment. The court believed and deemed that the mere existence of the separate education facilities gave the minorities the perception that they were inferior to the majority because they had to be separated from them, often in the school force conditions. The 14th Amendment will help shape and restructure education, from giving opportunities to the disabled to providing supplementary English courses to make education more meaningful for non-English proficient speakers. All of this was upheld by the judicial branch, both acting as the equalizer for races and the referee to call out illegal actions against races. All these changes, challenges, and reforms wouldn't have taken place if people didn't take a stand, speak up, and make sacrifices for these things, some losing their lives for equality. This doesn't just apply to people who fought in the Civil War, but also applies to people beyond that time period. People like Maya Angelou and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who stood up for what was right and wanted to make a change in the world. I believe Maya Angelou's poem of Caged Bird beautifully illustrates the struggles faced for minorities, but also how there is hope for us to grow, to improve, to sing, and hopefully receive freedom. And with how the course of history went, it's appropriate to say that that hope was heard and being applied today. I decided to use this poem and add in my own voice and my own visual representation of the themes of the poem to demonstrate both the struggles of the past and the possible opportunities granted in the future, allowing us to be free birds who can soar and choose their own destiny. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in his own sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
I have a dream today, and all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
The freebird thinks of another breeze, and the trade wind soft through the siding trees, and the fat one's waiting on a dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream, his wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.